You're listening to the School Growth Strategies podcast, brought to you by Hubly. In this show, John O'Landon draws on his vast experience and expertise to deliver actionable advice to private school administrators who are ready to take the next steps toward running a more efficient and sustainable private school business. I'm your host, Ryan Cowden, and this week we're joined once again by John O'Landon. In this episode of the School Growth Strategies podcast, Jono and I discuss how a better understanding of school marketing can allow more families to find and connect with your school. Here on the School Growth Strategies podcast, we've been discussing the power of marketing and the impact it can have on school growth. When educators grasp the idea that you need more than just a great school and that marketing can help you connect with new families, the next logical question is simply, where do I start? Is there a packet or something? Actually, there is a packet, but there's so much more as well. On today's episode, we will discuss some practical steps you can take to help you get found by eager families looking for a school like yours. But we will leave you with more than a packet. We will leave you with an expanded understanding of why some school marketing efforts succeed and why others fail. On this episode, you'll hear a reminder of why a focus on marketing can have a big impact on your school. Studies show that a very high percentage of families who physically visit a school end up making a commitment to go there. Focusing your marketing efforts on the right goals can have a big impact on your school's rate of growth. Next, we'll discuss the importance of having a well-designed school information packet. This packet, in its digital or physical form, should look professional and include just enough information to make prospective families want to take a tour of your school. Then, we'll go over the difference between branding and school marketing. Rather than focusing on getting the right color scheme, mascot, or logo, you'll get the most impact by focusing on presenting your school well and getting parents to share their contact information with you. And finally, we'll talk about what to include and what to leave out of your marketing materials. Don't try to sell the family with the packet. Leave out some of the nitty-gritty details and push interested families to reach out and learn more. If you're ready to take the next step in your school's marketing efforts, then this is one episode you won't want to miss. There's a lot of actionable advice in this episode, so grab something to write with because you're going to want to take notes. As always, I'll be back on the other side to wrap up any loose ends. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with John O'Landon. Jono, welcome back to the podcast. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, great to be here.
We are looking today at ways to get found by more prospective parents. And this harkens back to a core idea of the podcast that we talk about, which is that schools need to kind of adopt more of a marketing mindset. For anyone who's just joining us and hasn't heard any of the previous podcasts, can you just give your elevator pitch real quickly on why schools need to think about that?
So schools need to think about marketing in general because essentially the best schools are run by the best educators, but not necessarily the best schools are run as the best businesses, and that's because people that spend their lives just either being naturally drawn and obviously talented at being educators, and then obviously that's their inclination and that's what they do best and that's what their expertise are in. That profile isn't necessarily or isn't commonly the profile that is building the most efficient well-oiled machine of a business on marketing and operations and things like that. So there's this in the education sector, there's some pretty common challenges across the board. Marketing is one of them. Interestingly, schools have an incredibly educators, I would say, have an incredibly high success rate, quote unquote, selling parents on the school once the parent comes into the school. So again, I've interviewed thousands of schools, and generally speaking, schools have a very high success rate, actually a remarkably high success rate as an industry benchmark of converting a prospective parent to an enrolled parent at the point that the parent does finally come into the school and have a tour at the school.
Okay.
There seems to be, I would say, about a 70% success rate once the parent comes into the school.
Wow.
But getting the parent into the school is where schools are almost like in the reverse. It's like the other side of that double-edged sword is uh, they have that profile of this great educator that kind of naturally sells the school out of just passion, and it kind of sells the environment sells itself.
Mm-hmm.
um, that person, generally speaking, isn't great at managing or building an efficient marketing system
Mm.
that gets the right parents in the door.
Okay.
So because there's a you know a combination of challenges that are all working sort of you know in combination, that sort of making it harder for schools to be successful in that area. One of them is just a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time to learn how marketing works.
Yeah.
There's strategic information,
Sure.
there's technical information. Now you have to, the most relevant marketing strategies and tactics for private schools is digital. It's the digital platforms like Facebook and Google and things like that. So there's technical information, knowledge, and know-how. There's strategic information like what is marketing, and on a theoretical level, like how to approach it for different kinds of businesses.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
well, namely a private school, and and then and then also just like the actual creative side. I mean, a lot of educators are also very creative people, but using that creativity in in a strategic way for marketing is like copywriting for a Facebook ad is different than you know uh, than writing a book or a report or a white paper or something that's academic or
Mm.
educational, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay. Great. So you've got some strategies that you've kind of outlined that I kind of wanted to talk about, and one of them is just kind of creating a school information packet. And I was kind of wondering, you're obviously picturing kind of a physical packet. What goes into the packet, and what should educators leave out of the packet?
I would actually, um, not to correct you, but I
Sure.
wouldn't say a physical packet.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so it's that. So again, to get parents into the school, physical packets aren't the right way to do that.
Hmm.
A parent packet, once the parents again come into the school, it is, I think, it is a good idea to have a really nice, like high quality uh, handout packet that they can take with them and bring home, and
Yeah.
make them sort of think like, okay, this school is like a real professional organization. They've invested in this. It's
Yeah.
designed by professionals, things like that. So I think when it comes to parent packets, um, you want to have something that just looks really, really. You want to make the parent think that the school outsourced this to a professional,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
That it should be something that okay. So this might not be on the forefront of a parent's mind, but if they think that this was made by the school, well, what I'll say is like this: it's really obvious when a school makes their own parent packets,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah.
or
For
enrollment
sure.
brochures or whatever. It's pretty obvious because it doesn't have that professional touch.
Right.
It'll usually be you know a bunch of photocopied sheets of paper put in a
Hmm.
folder.
Yeah.
You want to hire a professional for that because it's I don't know if it hurts you not to have a professional package, but it
Yeah.
doesn't. I don't think it helps you.
Okay.
Whereas I think a professional package that's like glossy and looks like they hired a professional graphic designer, and got good card stock and all that stuff on the
Yeah.
I think that stuff does help. I don't that doesn't help with. I really don't think it helps all that much, to be
Hmm.
honest. But I think it is a good best practice
Hmm.
to hand out to parents once they have come in for a tour.
Okay. So the
Um,
school information packet, this digital thing.
Mhm.
This is probably going to be a PDF document that the family can download from somewhere. Is that kind of more what you're thinking of?
Yeah, so that's a good tool to again, should be done by a professional, um, and uh, and 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 it's important to note that a digital download, like a PDF of the same information, should be designed in a different way for that format. So please
Okay.
don't just you know go the cheap route, and even if you pay a designer to make a nice package, don't take that design and try to like make sure that they design a separate, like create a separate design as a downloadable PDF if you're going to use that. Now the way to use that strategically is, um, you should not just be handing out parent packets to anybody that asks, right?
Mm.
It should be something that you're being selective on who you give it to, and that it should be something that's used as a way to collect information and from parents that, to get them to commit to being followed up with. So it's so let's say you have an ad that's sending people to a landing page, a web page that's dedicated to the traffic from that Facebook ad, right? As
Yeah.
an example, then to get that parent packet, they should have to submit, an inquiry form, giving the school their contact information, things like that. Um, and so it's used as a way to uh, get parents into the next step of the process of coming into the school, because everything you're trying to do at this stage, when your whole marketing strategy, everything that you do is 100% focused on getting parents from to learn about the school, and then if they're the right parents, to eventually, and ideally as automatically as possible,
Yeah.
uh, sign up for a tour and show up for a tour. That's because, and this is so critical. Uh, because that's how a school's customers, the parents, that's how they make their buying decision, right? So
Mm.
every business that exists, their marketing strategy has to be designed according to how their customers make a buying decision, right? Unfortunately, what we see is that schools are marketing themselves more like they're Coca-Cola than they are a school,
Mm.
a
Okay.
private school. So a very important distinction, is Coca-Cola does branding. Branding is the only way Coca-Cola
Mm.
markets. That's their really sole marketing strategy, because their customers make a really small decision for like a dollar, often multiple times a day, um,
Yeah.
and they do that while they're looking at a wall of 100 other options, right?
Yeah.
So that's like interruption marketing, branding marketing. It's like Coca-Cola needs to be like, but interrupting you all day long with images, branding imagery, trying to make you, because when they want their customer to like look at a wall of like 50 different drink options and see the red logo of Coke,
Mm.
probably just notice the color and think about and just have a feeling,
Yeah.
because they got you to connect Coca-Cola with this cute fuzzy polar bear,
Hmm.
you know
Yeah.
with Santa Claus, so that's branding marketing. And what's really shocking, if you think about it, is like, I mean, you could never imagine people would forget that Coca-Cola exists. It's literally the biggest brand in the world,
Mm.
right? Probably the oldest
Wow.
brand in the world at this point, except for maybe Catholic Church, you know. But
Yeah. Right.
but but
Yeah.
so but if Coke stops spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year branding,
Hmm.
they won't exist in a year. Pepsi will just completely
Yeah.
eat their lunch, take them over. Coke won't exist, which
Right.
is crazy. Because,
Right.
but so they have to now, for a take like the other end of the spectrum is a parent that's going to hand their child off to a school and pay them on average $10,000 a year for multiple years.
Mm.
It's kind of that's a totally different scale of decision, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to buy a Coke that's like $1.25, not a big decision, right? But
Yeah.
actually, humans go through the same cognitive model, decision making model, when they buy a $1 Coke, or when they decide of where they're going to put their children for an average of $60,000,
Right.
and
Right.
with the implication of like their future of their children being
Hmm.
at risk. So it's like, um, totally different scale of decision, but actually we as humans go through the same process. Now that process that mental buying process is a process of building trust. There's multiple layers of trust building,
Okay.
and so the size of the decision, the size of the decision, not necessarily just how much it costs, but also the implications of it, determines how long it takes us to go through those stages of, progressively deeper levels of building trust until we are ready to say, here's my child and here's $10,000, right? So,
Right.
um, so for a school, for a parent to decide where they're going to put their child, that is that's one of the biggest decisions they ever make. Who am I going to marry? Where am
Yeah.
I going to live?
Yeah.
You know, what school am I going to enroll my child in? Especially parents that are putting their children in private school they have that sort of a higher sensitivity to the investment, because they're willing to make a
Hmm.
not just a commitment to a particular school choice, but also a financial investment, which is pretty large, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So in any event, so
Definitely.
so how so you so two ends of the spectrum on marketing strategies,
Right.
right? Because their customers make decisions. Coca-Cola and a private school, their customers make decisions in like the polar opposite ends of the spectrum as far as decision making process, right?
Right. Right.
So why the heck would a private school market like Coca-Cola does?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, almost every school is doing that.
So
When
it's
I
not
talk to
about,
schools,
yeah. Sorry. So it's not, you're not trying to build the brand of your school in your
no,
marketing.
no,
What are you trying to do?
you're trying
Trying
to
to,
get the right parents to come in for a tour. Because here's the
yeah.
question I always ask. I always ask people that run schools. I'm like, when a prospective parent comes in and they come in for a tour and they just fall in love with your school, and they're just like, this is like the best school I could ever think to enroll my child into.
Hmm.
I would, I would even pay you double what you're asking for tuition, because it's worth it to me. That's how good the school is. But you know what? I just don't like your logo. I just can't do it. I can't put my child in here. I just don't like the color palette of your homepage on your website.
Right. Right.
No. You're like, no,
Sure.
like that's insane, right? Like the name of the school, the brand, the colors on the website, the logo, none of that matters at all to that
Mm.
parent when they're making that decision, because they've come in with their full body. They had to make a pretty large commitment. They had to book a tour. They had to get a babysitter or figure out, take a half a day off work, whatever it is, and get there and show up and just remember they had to fit it into their calendar, get in their car, drive over to the school. They came in, they see everything that's going on,
Hmm.
uh, full 5 cents experience, right?
Yeah.
And that's how they are sold. At when a parent is going through all of that labor and having that entire, and it's an emotional experience too. This is like
Yeah.
huge, right? Again, it's like, who am I going to marry? Where am I going to live? What
Yeah.
school am I going to put my kid into? These are massive decisions. When a parent is making that decision, like, it just doesn't matter what the name of the school is. It doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, the a school has to have like a bare minimum of like the website should look professional, right? And the name of the school shouldn't offend anybody,
Yeah.
and the logo shouldn't be, offensive, and it should just look professional. But like you can get
Right.
that with incredibly low investment, with a downloadable template of, you know what I mean? Like you don't like
Mm.
it's not about branding. So marketing to get new parents is not about branding. It's about getting the right kind of parent in that area
Hmm.
that's looking for the right kind of values, the value propositions. That's how you pull them in and
Mm.
get them into the school. So everything you're doing is geared towards getting the right parent to come in with their body and
Hmm.
arrive at the school, and be there and
Right.
like, be, and
Right.
so because that's how they make a buying decision. So branding is like not I mean, it might have, having a great brand it might it might have I don't know. I can't even say it. I can't even say it has any impact.
Okay.
I can't bring myself to say it because I just don't believe it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Whereas if I was Coca-Cola, I wouldn't be trying to do lead generation marketing, which is what schools do. Lead generation marketing. strategies. That's what schools need to do. That's what gets parents into the school for the tour. Coca-Cola obviously isn't trying to convince somebody to come to Atlanta and book a meeting with the CEO and do a tour of the Coke plant with the
Right.
CEO to decide whether they're going to buy a Coke or a Pepsi right now for $1.25.
Sure.
That's a little insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they're not going to do lead generation marketing because that would be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's equally stupid for schools to focus on branding.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
it doesn't, because that's not how their customers make a decision.
Sure.
Right.
So that's gonna inform what goes into this packet or this PDF file that the parents are going to
Thank you. So
download.
right back to this packet, like how you use that packet is in a way to incentivize parents to take the next step towards coming in for a tour.
Right.
That's what it's for. It's not there to, right? Parents don't make a decision. I mean, God forbid a parent would download a packet and decide, oh, I'm not going to roll in this school because of something I read in that packet. Would that be an informed decision? No, because they have to come into the school to make an informed decision. So
Right.
you can't put parents in a position where they think they're getting enough information to make a decision about your school or not.
Okay.
And that's what everyone's doing, unfortunately. They try to sell their school from their website. They try to sell their school from a downloadable packet. No, that's not where your customers make their decision. That's not how they can be informed. So you don't want to try to. So if you just ram that parent packet full of information as if you're just going to leave no questions unanswered, well, how are you motivating them to come in? So there's a way to make it accessible to them, which incentivizes them to take the next step. And what information goes into that packet, and this is super critical, is enough information that makes them want to come in. Even the depth of information that you're putting in the packet has to be geared towards making them interested to learn more. And to learn more, they have to book a tour and show up to get more information. So a great example is tuition rates.
Okay.
Never, and people will argue with me on this, and it'll generally be school directors who obviously are wonderful educators, but not necessarily the best marketing folks. It's like, you should not be listing your tuitions on your website or in your parent packet unless you're going to have a separate parent packet for parents that have actually arrived. And that's a good idea because once they come in and they actually get the full, now they're in the position to be informed fully, to have enough information to actually make the actual decision to enroll. So you want to leave them with the information that they need to make their final, contract decision. That's different. That's a different kind of parent packet.
Right.
I would call it a different, maybe an enrollment handbook at that point, or whatever it is.
Sure.
But until so this is something I have I get asked a lot because I say this all the time: don't give people your tuition information. And everyone's like, well, but what, like parents want to know that. I'm like, well, yeah, of course they want to know that. Now there's a way to answer that question there's a way to answer that question which incentivizes them, which gives them enough information for where they actually are psychologically in this decision-making process, but also incentivizes them to come in for a tour. So as an example, I always tell people, like, your landing page or your downloadable, PDF or whatever there can be frequently asked questions, things like that, talk about tuition. So you can say, you can talk about sort of the range of pricing you're in, right? Like, but not give exact prices, or you could explain that, our tuition fees are similar to other schools in the area, or you could say are competitive with other schools in the area, but exact tuition is decided upon when we meet you in person. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's saying, yeah, well, because again, if a parent is serious about investing in their child's education and they're looking at other private schools in the area, whether it's $100 or $200, even $1,000 different over the year, right? Like if it's the right school, if they're already spending $10,000, they're going to spend $10,500 for the school that they believe is the best for the fit for them. They're going to make, I mean, it's a few $100s difference. That could be a deciding factor for some people.
Sure.
But like,
Right.
any school is going to like find a subsidy for somebody. If the school thinks that that's the right family, they shouldn't be killing their opportunity to get the best fit family for a measly $500 when they could cover it, or just offer, or just give them a sliding scale, whatever it is. There's so many ways of handling the negotiation of a few $100s here and there, and every school does it. So like, why make that? Why kill the opportunity to have the best kind of family for their school by saying no? We're our tuition is $10,500.
Okay.
It's like, well, you just lost the best, the family that would have been your favorite family ever and would have brought in 10 other families just because they were so happy with your school and they talked about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just silly.
Right.
To haggle. So you don't want to be haggling from your website.
Yeah.
Or you don't, it's I guess it's not haggling from your website, but you don't want to be losing people. You don't want to be losing people based off pricing of a few $100s just because you wrote it on your website.
Right.
So you want to use and there's other examples for other kinds of information as well.
Okay, cool. We're just about out of time. What's kind of the final thought for you as we wrap up here about, really kind of attracting, magnetizing these new families to come in and visit our schools?
So yeah, it's just like, everything you do, you just have to make sure you're obsessive about making sure that any ad that you write, any web page that you write, any information, until that parent has shown up at your school for a tour, your one solitary goal is you're trying to sell the parent on coming into the school. You're not trying to sell your school. You sell your school in the tour, because that's when, and for the most part, the school just sells itself because you're a passionate educator and they can see that it's a great school and the kids are happy and the teachers are amazing. And it just gives them the warm and fuzzies naturally. So the school really just sells itself. So you just have to get the parents to that point. So again, until they come into the school, you're not selling the school. You're selling the tour. And that makes a huge difference as to what your ads say, what your websites say, what your parent packets say, and when they can get it.
Yeah.
So just, and again, it's all about at every stage of the process, from an ad to a web page to an email to a tour booking, you're sharing sort of deeper depth of information, but it should always be geared towards just the right information that makes the right parents interested in learning more, and then making sure they have a clear path towards the optimal environment for them to actually make a buying decision, which is being in person at your school.
Okay, great. John, this was fantastic. We'll let you get back to enjoying your beautiful lake, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks. It's been great.
Yeah. All right, folks, there you have it. That wraps up my conversation with John O'Landon. He shared a ton of valuable insights and advice today on how to attract more new families to your school. We also shared some tools and resources, which will all be linked up in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Please consider subscribing, sharing with a friend, or leaving us a review in your favorite podcast directory. Until next time, best of luck in all that you do, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the School Growth Strategies podcast.